How are you guys doing? Good, good. I welcome you all to our West Desert State Water Plan Update Water Talk. So appreciate y'all coming. My name is Candace Hosniger. I'm the director at the Utah Division of Water Resources. And I wanted to start by asking how you guys used water this morning. So someone watered their lawn. How else? Someone took a shower. That's good. You drank. Someone ate breakfast. Anybody else use water? Irrigated some alfalfa. Awesome. Great. Did anyone charge their cell phone overnight? Turn on a light, right? Yes. So we know that water is the basis of our society, from the clothes we wear to the food we eat. It runs and drives our society. So we at the division feel that our state water plan is one of the most important things that we do, and really grateful for you showing up and taking the time to be here to help shape it. I'd like to introduce Stephanie McGinnis. She's the state water plan manager, and she is going to go over a presentation for us tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Candace, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I can appreciate that there are a lot of things that you could be doing with your time this evening, and so we really value and appreciate that you're taking the time to join us. I also want to thank the West Desert Watershed Council. They have already been working with us to update the state water plan, helping us to identify challenges and needs and successes within the basin that will be infusing into the state water plan. For those of you that are joining us online, you may have noticed that you are unable to ask questions or make comments, but at the end, we will have a QR code up with a survey. And with that survey, you can go ahead and provide feedback on the presentation this evening. And you can also just share your thoughts and ideas on what you would like to see in the state water plan. There will also be an email address up at the end, and it's on the bottom of all of the slides that you'll see here in a moment. So you can also, if you have any specific questions, you can feel free to reach out that way. For those of you that are in the room, this presentation will take about 20 to 30 minutes. And then after that, you're welcome to also take the survey, but we do hope that you'll stick around and join us to just have a conversation. We'd like to hear what you would like to see in the state water plan and share with you, what do you see as issues and concerns when you think about water here in the state and local to you here in the community? And with that, I'd like to just ask that you hold your questions until that time, and we'll spend about an hour having that conversation. So the mission of the Division of Water Resources is to plan, conserve, develop, and protect our water resources. And certainly the state water plan falls within that mission. And it really does take a village at the division to draft that state water plan, from our modelers that are collecting and analyzing data to our staff that are here this evening and at other water talks that we're holding across the state to help facilitate these, and also our many staff that are helping to draft sections of the state water plan. But the state water plan, it really is bigger than the Division of Water Resources. We're working with our agency partners to help identify what we should include in the plan. We're working with our local partners, the water conservancy districts, as well as the watershed councils. And we're also working with individuals, the public, and why we're doing these sorts of talks in every single basin across the state. So this evening, I'll provide an overview of the state water plan, what it is, what it isn't, why it matters, and what we plan to include in the updated plan. And we'll also share how you can help shape the plan and how you can stay involved throughout the process. And in particular, your input will really help to ensure that the state water plan is reflecting the needs and priorities of people here locally. And the purpose of the state water plan is to provide an overview of current water resources and also outline strategies and steps at the individual, local, and state levels to address current challenges and also to help prepare us for the future. So my hope is that the plan will serve as a strategic framework and guiding document to support informed decision-making by those who are shaping, managing, and depending on Utah's water resources. And the first truly comprehensive state water plan was published back in 1990, and we've had 2 iterations of the state water plan since. And previous documents that address water resources in Utah, they do go back quite a ways. And it's interesting to look back at these because the focus of the publications has really changed over the years. And to me, this just reinforces the idea that the water landscape that we're living in, it isn't static. So our needs are always changing, and these plans reflect that as we look back at them. So the first water planning document, and again, this was not a full-blown state water plan, this plan was focused on development, increasing storage, and also getting water to where it was needed. And to me, this also has the coolest cover that we've seen. The 1963 plan, this was still pretty focused on storage and moving water to where it was needed. In the 1990 plan, and again, this was the first comprehensive state water plan, we start to see a bit of a shift in the focus. There were entire sections that are devoted to water pollution and the importance of fisheries and other aquatic wildlife, as well as acknowledging water conservation as a necessary tool to manage our water resources. The second state water plan, this was published in 2001, and I think we all probably knew this, but this plan really identifies and points out that we live in a semi-arid climate. And it touches on that in the sense that we need to recognize this as we plan for the future. And in the most recent plan, it also acknowledges that we're seeing changes in our long-term weather trends. And this will continue to be a concern as we develop the next state water plan. And I want to just point out some of the things that we have been seeing recently. In recent years, we've seen an increase in the frequency and the severity of drought. And this is a map from the US Drought Monitor, and it's showing the percent of time in weeks from 2000 through 2019 that each state has been in some level of drought. And so to count for a week of drought for the state, at least half of the state has to be in some level of drought. And we can see during that 20-year period that Utah, I'll tell you what's going on in the legend because I don't think you all can see it, but Utah has experienced drought conditions about 40 to 50% of the time. So essentially around half of the year, at least half of the state is in some level of drought. And I don't think this is news to anyone in the room, but Great Salt Lake has been setting some records lately as well. And Utahns have and continue to have concerns regarding the dwindling amount of water that's available for storage in the Colorado River Basin. This is a picture of Lake Powell in 2021. And at this time, this was a new historic low since it had started filling back in the 60s. And then the reservoir hit another record low the next summer and the next summer. And I checked, it's been 2 weeks now, but Lake Powell's at about 29% of full pool or max capacity. So to me, I just don't think we can stress enough how important it is that we pay attention to what's changing around us and how that might affect our thinking on how we manage our water resources. I certainly don't want to paint a total doom and gloom picture this evening, because from these challenges come opportunities. So developments in science and how we collect data can help us to better understand how to adapt to changing conditions and help us better manage our water resources. And so I just want to give you an example. The Airborne Snow Observatory, or ASO for short, that's technology that allows for aerial surveys to be conducted across a large area, an entire watershed, an entire basin. And we can get an idea of how much water, what the snow depth is, and probably more importantly, how much water is in that snow, known as snow water equivalent or SWE. Traditionally, our snowpack information has been obtained from snowpack telemetry or snowtel sites. And these are really great at providing a point estimate of what the water equivalent is. But this ASO can allow us to do this across a larger scale. And the division is currently involved in a multi-year pilot study to determine if this might be the sort of technology that we want to use moving forward to help us better understand how much water really is piling up in our mountains over the winter. And of course, I've got collaboration highlighted here as well. And that's because, you know, the only way we can really truly develop a state water plan is to collaborate with our state partners, with our local partners, and with our public. And And before we move on, this is a really great time to point out a couple of things that the plan is not. I wish it were, but it's not a guaranteed water. And the state water plan is also not a regulatory document. The Division of Water Resources is not a regulatory agency. However, the past shows that recommendations in the plan do sometimes come into fruition. And recommendations, these often come in the shape of goals or objectives. And in the 2021 plan, approximately 80% of the goals and objectives have been met to date. And I also want to touch on why it matters to us. Water affects us all, whether it's water from your tap, irrigation for your farms, water for healthy rivers and lakes. You know, Candace asked you all how you used water this morning, and we had a lot of different ways that we used water. And so as we're working on the state water plan, we're keeping in mind that we want a plan that is aiming to provide a safe and reliable water supply that sustains our communities, supports our economy, and protects the environment now and also into the future. So reflecting the balance between today's needs and the need to be a long-term steward of our water resources. So I want to get into the details here. The plan will have a total of 9 chapters, and this evening we'll drill down a bit into chapters 2 through 8. Chapters 2, 3, and 4, I see these as the chapters that outline what the limiting or constraining factors are when it comes to how much water we have in our state and what we can do with that water. And then within those constraints, how do we support our ecosystems? How do we support our communities and our agriculture? Chapters 5, 6, and 7. We'll also have a chapter that discusses the unique challenges and needs within the 11 basins within Utah, as well as the unique opportunities and successes within those basins. And again, as I've mentioned, we've been working with the Watershed Council to help us identify some of those, and we'll talk about those a little bit more here in just a moment. So diving into chapter 2 a bit more, this will provide an overview of Utah's water constraints. So for example, we only receive so much precipitation here in Utah, and that's what we have to work with. This plan will also explain how supply and use are measured, as well as provide a current water budget that details our current supply and use. And the water budget, this provides some really good, important information for those that are planning. It'll give us information on how much is diverted, how much is depleted. And this is really key, again, for planning at the basin or the state level. So our team collects data and runs the model annually. And this is just an example up here on the screen of what we can do with that water budget data. So this is kind of a busy image, but if you look on the left, you'll see that we have diversions on the left for some major basins within the state. And diversions, again, that's the process of removing water from its natural source for human use. And then on the right, up on the top, we have depletions. So that's the proportion of diverted water that's consumed and is not returned to the system. On the bottom right, we have return flow. And as you probably guessed, that's the amount of water that's diverted, but then returned to a water body. And these modeling efforts are great for our team. It allows us to explore trends and how changes in things such as land use, water conservation practices, or different irrigation methods, how that can affect water supply and use. So chapter 3, this will focus on the drivers of change that affect Utah's water supply and demand, such as changes in climate and population. Again, we've seen more frequent and severe droughts across the state in recent years, and Utah's population is growing rapidly in some regions. And both of these trends can create some uncertainty for our water future. So we need to have that roadmap to help us prepare for and adapt to these drivers of change. And this chapter will also highlight how improvements in technology and conservation can help us adapt to a changing water landscape, as well as how shifts in policy and management improve our ability to adapt, whether that be at the state or even more local level. And the hope is that our future will look more like the picture on the right than the picture on the left. Chapter 4, this will focus on how water is administered in Utah. So we'll cover who does what, basically, at the state, regional, and local levels. This includes state agencies like the Division of Water Resources, all the way down to the local irrigation company. Each has a specific role in planning, developing, regulating, and/or delivering water. So we'll highlight some key laws and agreements that shape water use in Utah, including interstate compacts that allocate river flow between states. We'll talk about water rights and allocation, including federally reserved water rights, which include tribal rights. And we'll touch on innovations in water administration. A recent example is the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan, known as UWIP. And this plan aims to improve coordination and funding for water infrastructure projects across the state. So again, within these sideboards outlined in chapter 2, 3, and 4, how do we support our environment, our communities, and our agriculture? And I want to talk high level about what will be included in the plan, but I also want to highlight some water resource challenges that are relevant here at more the local level. So chapter 5, this emphasizes the importance of protecting our watersheds and highlights the services that they provide. Healthy watersheds, they provide a multitude of services, such as maintaining and improving water quality, improving the ability to store water, and also to help mitigate the effects of flooding. Healthy watersheds also provide really important habitat, and that's a key factor in supporting and maintaining biodiversity. And a lot of us like to play in our watersheds. And beyond playing, these recreation opportunities, they're a big economic benefit to many of our communities. We'll also address the major threats that our watersheds face. Pollution and invasive species are two major ones. Pollution has a multitude of sources and negative influences within a watershed, affecting water quality for aquatic life as well as human use. And invasive species, both plants and animals, can crowd out our natives, it can disrupt ecosystems, and affect the quality and quantity of water. And one of the big issues with invasives as well is that once they're established in a system, it's usually difficult to impossible to eradicate them. So that in turn becomes an economic cost to mitigate the negative effects of them. And this chapter will also highlight some management plans that are already in place to protect our native aquatic species, especially those that are listed as threatened or endangered. And really at the end of the day, without our healthy watersheds, it's hard for us to support our communities and our agricultural practices. So I want to move into our next chapter on vibrant communities. Clean drinking water, supporting growth and development, ensuring safe and reliable infrastructure. These are all really important things when we think about our communities. So we'll cover the importance of long-term planning to ensure that our water resources are ready to support areas with a growing population, ensure that our economic opportunities are set up for success as we see an increase in energy development, especially geothermal and other alternative energy sources, and that we have a strategy in place to seize future opportunities like hosting the upcoming 2034 Olympics. And we'll also dive into the details of how we can better manage demand by growing water wise through the use of smart water technology, such as smart irrigation timers. We'll talk about all of the rebate programs and incentives and educational workshops that are available to Utahns to help them make water-wise decisions. And we'll highlight the positives of things like metering secondary water connections, the positives of implementing tiered water rates that reward conservation efforts. And as the saying goes in Utah, we're either in drought or preparing for the next one. So we'll outline how the drought response plan helps us to monitor and respond to droughts in our community. And just as we're looking at how we can better manage demand, we'll also look at how we can expand and optimize our supply through planning for repair and replacement of aging structure, development of new infrastructure, and implementing projects that focus, and again, this is statewide, focus on water reuse, aquifer storage and recovery, as well as water loss control. And then the final chapter that I would like to touch on before we dig into some of those basin specifics is productive agriculture. Ag is really a cornerstone of Utah's economy and identity, and the state water plan is supporting farmers and ranchers by identifying grant programs and other financial opportunities that are out there to improve operations, as well as identify ways to use water more efficiently, all while preserving agricultural lands as well as agricultural traditions. So this plan will outline opportunities available through the Agricultural Water Optimization Program. This program is making pretty significant financial investments into modernizing the state's agricultural water systems through a competitive grant process. And the funding is sort of strategically divided into two primary categories: on-farm projects and then also canal and irrigation company projects. And the idea is to address water efficiency at every stage of agricultural use. We'll also highlight conservation easement programs. These are voluntary legal agreements between a landowner and a qualified organization, such as a land trust or a government agency. And the idea is to permanently restrict certain types of development on that land in order to protect specific conservation values. And those values could be agricultural production, it could be protecting wildlife habitat, protecting just even open space or water resources. And then another big one that we'll highlight is the Agricultural Voluntary Incentive Program. And this program is offered by the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food, or UDAF. And the goal of the program is to assist agricultural producers that are managing cropland or pasture systems with implementing a wide variety of best management practices, or BMPs, to improve yield, improve water quality, build soil health, or other operational goals that are identified. So of course, with that, we'll be diving into what those BMPs are and innovative opportunities. And we'll be looking at those both on farm as well as off farm. And so the BMPs for off farm, these are focusing on two core areas: improvement of the conveyance system and measurement, and also controlled water throughout the system. And then the on-farm projects, these are optimizing use, typically focused on both the system infrastructure as well as the management of crops, soil, or irrigation water application. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we've been working with the West Desert Council to identify challenges and needs within the basin as they relate to water resources. And we started having these conversations under sort of those broad topics of the healthy watersheds and ecosystems, the vibrant communities, and the productive agriculture. And I don't think it was really any surprise that as we were having these discussions and identifying sort of these high-level challenges or issues, everything was sort of overlapping. And so what's up on the screen is just a few things that were identified by the council at just kind of this high level. So I just invite you to take a look at these and think about what else keeps you up at night when you think about water as it relates to you here locally in the community. And that's something that we'll carry into the next section when we'll have a little bit of a conversation about that. Before we do that though, I would like to just highlight how you can stay engaged throughout the process. So we are holding these meetings in all 11 basins across the state. This is our third one. They'll run through the end of October. And then our team will spend the winter writing. And then you'll have another opportunity next summer to comment on the state water plan. At that point, we'll have what we consider to be a final draft. So we'll kick that out to you all and see if you agree that it is a final draft. And then the final publication will be ready December of 2026. And these QR codes, these will be up at the end of the presentation. So you can grab them now or you can wait. On the left, you can sign up for email updates using this QR code. You'll definitely be notified when the public comment period is available next summer, and you'll be notified when the final document is available in December of 2026. You may get another email or two, but I promise we won't be bombarding your inbox with state water plan emails. Then the QR code on the right, this will take you to our Watershed Councils page. So if you'd like to engage at a more local level on water issues in your basin, the Watershed Councils meetings occur quarterly. And so you can find information on when the next meeting is and how you can join. This QR code will also be up at the end of the presentation. So for those of you that are online, we hope that you'll take the time to fill this survey out. It'll only take about 5, maybe 10 minutes, so you can share information on the presentation this evening and just also provide feedback again on what are your concerns, thoughts, ideas of what you would like to see in the state water plan. Those of you here in the room, you're welcome to take the survey, but again, we hope that you will stay and join us for a conversation. And we have a fairly small group here. So what we're going to do is we are going to break out into tables, but I think what we might do in a moment is just form a big circle. So I guess what I have up here is kind of the rules of engagement, I guess I'd call them. We just hope as we get going with the conversation, if you'll limit your initial comments to just 1 or 2 minutes, so that everyone feels that they have the opportunity to speak. And then we'll kind of go from there. And I want you to also know that we will be recording the conversation. And that's because if you've ever had to lead a conversation, it's hard to do that and take notes at the same time. So we'll record it, and then our staff will go through that and just sort of pull out what those key points are that you all brought up. And I think probably the biggest thing that I would just like to ask is that everyone just be kind to each other. You know, water is important to us all. We wouldn't be here this evening if it wasn't. So we all have unique perspectives on how and why water is important to our lives. So just please respect the opinions of others. And so I'll introduce some of we have actually a lot of staff here this evening because we're so close to Salt Lake, but I want to introduce a few key folks. We do have Becca here. She is our state water plan specialist. We have Olga. She is one of our environmental scientists. Her hair is a different color this evening. And we also have Carl here. He is our senior geologist. We also have our director here, Director Hassenjäger, who you already met. We have Carly Payne, our Watershed Council's coordinator, and we also have Michael Sanchez here in the back. We have a few other folks. We have Shannon here, one of our admin folks. Who else? We have Carmen here, our AV person. We have another Paul in the back with our AV, and we have Crystal here. Does a lot of our social media. Who else? Any other division folks that it's a lot. Anyhow, with that, all of those QR codes are back up. Again, we hope that you'll stick around. The email address, thestatewaterplan@utah.gov. Again, if there's anything that you would like to follow up with us on specifically. But with that, I would like to invite those of you in the room to, maybe we can just pull these chairs out and make a little circle.